Good morning, Houston. I'm KHOU11 meteorologist Kim Castro. We are under a weather impact alert because we've got a big bowing line that is going to bring us some strong storms. Here's the deal. We're tracking the weakening of these storms at this point, which is the good news. The bad news is that, well, it is going to bring us about an hour or two of some gusty wind, some heavy downpours, and yeah, some flashes of lightning. So that means you don't want to be outside in this right now. Special weather statement means we're just barely below the threshold of a severe thunderstorm warning, but we still have notable wind gusts that we're tracking right now. So within this line, I'm clocking in some wind speeds at 50 miles an hour. Notice no hail to watch, which is a good thing. It really is just all about the bowing motion of this line that brings in some force as it tracks through here. So here's the timing of the storm. It gets close to the city center here in the next 15 to 20 minutes, and then beyond that it will be riding down the Gulf Freeway, so it's going to make a sweeping motion towards the coastline by about 11 o'clock in the morning. I'll be watching this through the noon hour because you'll notice behind it there is some back building, so there's still some showers to track. But the main issue with this storm is going to be some of those gusty winds. Now, we've already seen some reports of power outages in Bryan College Station. I will note some of the gusts there were producing 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. Now, a lot of the radar signatures that I've been noticing have been, about 30 to 40 miles an hour. And I will take some samples of that here in a moment so you can look along with me and see some of the current hazards that we've got associated with this. Okay, so like I mentioned, if you're just joining us now, we are watching this line of storms that really started to show some good strength as it dropped down from Dallas. And then eventually we were expecting for it to fall apart. Now, our atmosphere, wasn't all that unstable. However, it gained enough composure, got this bowing motion, and did hold together as it tracked through here. So we're stopping the clock there. I'm going to take some samples of the wind. Okay, I'm going to take samples of the wind gusts to kind of give you an idea as to what are the current areas that we will be monitoring here. This unfortunately is off, and I'm going to just step out of the camera here for 1 second to turn on this monitor that will help me take a better sample of this. But here, I'll get in close to the leading edge of this line and show you the areas that should be inside at this point. We're under the weather impact alert just as a precaution to kind of let you know, hey, if you can avoid hitting the roads at this point, that's advised, or if you could just keep it inside your house, even better. Notice the brighter green spots have really started to drop off, which is a good thing. And now the wind gust that I'm watching in Tomball is at 30 miles an hour. Now, is this going to be disruptive? Yes. Is this going to cause power outages? No. So that was one of the biggest threats or biggest risks that I was going to be monitoring for us as this line got closer to us, was going to be the potential of some 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. Notice I got really close there on Dobbin-Huffman Road because that is an area that does have some of those brighter spots. So isolated pockets within the main line do still have the capability of producing 40 to 50 mile an hour winds. Now, the main swath isn't going to have that as an average wind speed, but individual areas do still have that potential. So want you to keep an eye on radar with me as we track this clearing the area. So for now, it's already passed through Grimes County, it's passed through Walker, it's passed through most of Montgomery, and now it's entering Harris County, the northwest side. So it's pushed into spring, and then here in the next few minutes, it's going to make its way towards Houston. So I will give you a new kind of track to see how soon it's going to get to the downtown area. So into Houston at around 10:40. I really do think it's gonna get there a little bit sooner than that. In fact, I think from now all the way through the noon hour, that's when we should be monitoring the threat for these stronger storms. I'm going to take you back though to the timeline because I want you to find your particular neighborhood, and there it is. So if you live, let's say, in along the I-10 corridor, so if you live in Katy, if you live in any of the villages, Hunters Creek, the Heights, those spots are going to see the impacts from this line here in the next 15 minutes. And then it's going to continue to push down the Gulf Freeway towards League City and then eventually make its way towards the coastline. Now, I want to get in close to show you the leading edge in some of the areas that are going to feel the impacts here, if not already within the next 5 or 10 minutes. So you saw kind of like the big timeline picture. Now let's get in close here. I'm going to take away, there we go. So Cypress, so down 290, Cypress right now, you're seeing the heavy rain. I don't see you getting too much wind at this point, but your rainfall rate is heavy. So if that thunderstorm were to sit on top of you for an hour, it would produce 3 inches of rainfall. It is not doing that. In fact, it's racing pretty fast. It's moving at around 40 miles an hour. So you're just gonna get a quick downpour and that's all. How many flashes of lightning? That's something that I like to monitor as well. It's a good indicator of, first of all, how charged the storm is, and also if it's weakening or strengthening. Number of strikes, 35, that's nothing to write home about. So it is weakening, which is fantastic news. But again, something to watch, especially as we start off the day, start off the week. This was a cluster of storms that was expected to die down as it got towards us, but it held together. And so that's just another reminder, you know, during this time of year, it is so important. Anytime we've got a storm chance, to keep radar close and have a way to get updated on the evolving weather story. So for you, that can mean, you know, you have your alerts set up on your X or on your Instagram, on your Facebook. We're always posting updates on our social media pages, but really the best way to get an up-to-date forecast, heading over to KHOU.com. That's always available. Being on the app, KHOU 11 Plus, that's a good way to get real-time updates. And then, of course, catching the newscasts. So the next one up is going to be at noon with meteorologist Pat Kavlin. He'll be walking you through the rest of the week at noon and 4. And then our chief meteorologist, David Paul, is here at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. There's a lot to get to when it comes to the weather story this week, not just locally for thunderstorms, but in the tropics. Right now, this is the most pressing thing though, so that's what I'm going to be walking you through here. In case you're just joining us, we are tracking a line of storms that was a little bit stronger here about an hour ago, was giving us a severe thunderstorm warning with gusts at around 60 miles an hour. Since started to weaken, which is a good thing. Hey, I'm seeing a little reflectivity signature there on Katy Hockley. So just north of the Katy Freeway. That could be a signature of some very small hail. I do suspect that that's probably melting before reaching the ground, but we are getting some brand new special weather statements that I'll show you here in a second. But first, I want to take you over to Jen, who has a traffic update. Hey Jen, how's it looking?
Hey Kim, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the storms with you. I posted on my social account, not because we're overly concerned about any flooding or anything like that, but just FYI for you guys as you hit the roads, maybe for an early lunch. Look at I-45 just north of the Spring area, and you've been hearing Kim talk about 290 saturated from Brenham out to Prairie View, closer to the backside of Cypress. 249 Tomball Parkway is also getting some storms and some rain right now, right before you reach 99. And 99 has some westbound delays right around Glenlock Farms. That's been for about the past 2 hours or so. Did want to take you live outside to some of our TransStar cameras, show you what the movement is like on the pavement here. 45 north, this is loop 336 in the Conroe area. We have no major crashes, but you know as well as I know, don't follow too closely, especially to heavy trucks when we have slippery road conditions. This is 249 at 1488. Not a lot of volume, just showing you that that rain is hitting the Tomball area. I'll move it on along to 290 at Mushki, where you can see drivers are on their best behavior. Today's a day when it rains like this to have your cell phones down, know where your entrance and exits are, so you're not flying across lanes and cutting someone else off. So the good news is, out of the 290 corridor, we just have the rain showers. Again, no major crashes. But look at the backup on 99. This is westbound at Champions Forest, where we are crowded. And like I said, we have been since our earlier stream between 7 and 9 a.m. I've been monitoring those westbound delays. North Loop at Yale, we had an earlier stalled truck. It finally got out of there. It was there for like 2 hours, where one lane was out of commission for a good while, and we were backed up on the North Loop. We are still seeing a little bit of residual westbound traffic between the Hardy and 45, but it was nothing like it was earlier. For drive time's sake, out of the Woodlands, 36 minutes down 45, and Pat out of Sugarland, 28 minutes for folks hitting 69. Let's keep folks updated in the weather department.
Hey, what's up, Jen? Yeah, good morning. So we got this storm coming in. Kim's been talking about it all morning. She flagged us on this, way early on. She said, hey, the storm's coming out of Dallas. I don't think it's going to weaken too much before it reaches some of our northern areas, and she was dead on. So we had some pretty gusty winds move through Montgomery County, parts of Grimes County, Washington County as well. I think the city is going to be spared from the worst of it, although you could still get some some decent gusty winds as we go through the next hour or so. This is a live look from the top of our roof camera here. We're in the Galleria. We're right along Westheimer, just to the west of the loop. And you can see, there's a little bit of a shelf cloud out there in the distance. Kind of hard to see right now, but you'll see it better as it starts to get closer. And it's going to be pretty, it's going to look worse than it actually is, right? So I keep saying this storm, I think, has more bark than bite now. Earlier, it had plenty of bite. Again, there were power lines down up in the College Station area. I don't think that's going to be the issue for us here at home. So no severe warnings on this, just a special weather statement, which is just the National Weather Service's way of saying there's a storm coming in. It's strong, but it's not quite severe. We're not quite at that threshold of seeing severe damaging wind gusts, but certainly could see, maybe some lawn furniture tipped over, maybe some garbage cans tipped over with 50-mile-an-hour winds, and that's in effect till 11 o'clock this morning. So we'll go a little farther north here up 45. Spring's starting to get into some of the worst of the heaviest rain right now. There's not a ton of lightning with this anymore, which Kim had pointed out also at the beginning of this stream. That just indicates the storm is really starting to weaken, and that's what the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center had both kind of anticipated being the case. As these storm systems get into our atmosphere, especially during the morning hours, there's a really strong cap in place, and that really limits how strong these systems can get. So we are starting to see them weaken. Still going to see some heavy rain here for probably about an hour or two, and again, some gusty winds, but that'll be about it. Farther out towards the west, places like Cypress, going all the way along I-10 here, Katy, Sealy, Columbus, you're about to get in on some of this. And again, if you go outside now and you look to the northern sky, you're going to see a really cool looking shelf cloud. So if you want to snap a photo of that and send it to us, we'd be happy to feature it on the news at noon, coming up here at 12 o'clock. But that's pretty much it. Not a lot of lightning. Notice a decent amount of lightning back towards the west. No lightning strikes though for Sealy, for Katy, for Cypress. And again, that's a sign that this thing is really starting to pulse down and to weaken. But as these storms start to weaken, they do tend to push out a little more wind. And so that threat for 30, 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds, not out of the question. So it will get breezy as this cluster of storms moves through. But you can see behind it, we've got probably about an hour or two's worth of rain to deal with. So don't expect this to blow through and then, okay, it's sunny again. No, we're going to be kind of cloudy and drippy and dreary here, at least for the beginning part of the afternoon, as this entire complex of storms pushes through the area. Let's time it out for you right now. So here's Future Track. Has a great handle on where things are right now. Again, heavy rain and storms from Conroe all the way back through Brenham and Columbus. And the timing on this is dead on. As we put this into motion, reaches the city here, again around 11 to 11:30. Heavier storms and downpours down the 59-69 corridor from Sugarland down through El Campo. But notice it's still raining an hour, hour and a half from now in places like Brenham, in Conroe, in Columbus. So again, this isn't like a one and done type deal. we're going to see that rainy weather kind of stick around as we go through at least the next few hours. I would say the rest of the morning, even into the afternoon. Now at this point, Galveston, you're still quiet, but this will catch up to you eventually. I think it really falls apart though by the time it gets to you. So it's just a couple spotty downpours, maybe a rumble of thunder, maybe, as we get towards 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But notice again, still raining in Houston. So we've got hours of rain on the way for us here. This is not going to be a quick mover. The initial punch of this will be quick. So again, a quick burst of wind as it blows through, but then the rain kind of sticks around here as we get to the early afternoon. Now getting into the second half of the afternoon, so 3, 4, 5 o'clock, we finally start to quiet down. In fact, we'll start to break out with sunshine across a good part of the area. I think it's actually a nice evening once these storms move through. They'll kind of cool things off. They'll keep us from getting into the upper 90s, which is nice. And I think this evening looks really good. Maybe 1 or 2 isolated showers in the back edge of this, but that'll be it. I think the atmosphere really kind of gets worked over behind this big complex. Another look at that shelf cloud, and you can see it's really starting to get closer to us here. Nothing threatening looking here. A couple of these spots that are kind of hanging down from the shelf cloud, we call that scud. It's basically just air rising into the storm as it gets closer, so it's condensing ahead of the actual line. But yeah, some really cool cloud photos on the way with this. Thankfully, though, we are at the end of the morning commute, so we're not expecting any impact, any significant impacts. If this had happened at 6 o'clock in the morning, obviously this would be a totally different story, but that is just, not what we're seeing, thankfully, with this storm. Again, nothing severe at the moment. So we're just watching this line of storms now starting to reach the northern beltway here. So here's the loop, and then here's the beltway. And this is starting to reach those areas now up towards places like Tomball. You're starting to get in on some of these steadier downpours. Cypress, you're in it right now. A couple lightning strikes here just to the west of the Grand Parkway. Katy, you're starting to get in on the rain as well, but south of I-10, you're still dry for the moment. But I think areas like Cinco Ranch, you're going to start to see rain here in the next few minutes. So it's not a severe storm, but it's not a storm that you want to be caught outside in. Obviously, you don't want to get wet. You don't want to see these stronger wind gusts come through, but I'm not really seeing anything, that's worth getting excited about. Nothing severe. Just some good old heavy rain to water our lawns, which is nice, to keep us on the cooler side, which is nice, because I tell you, later this week, it is not going to be cool. A couple lightning flashes again, west side of the Grand Parkway, up towards Belleville. Brenham, you're starting to get out of the heaviest of the rain right now, going to more of a steady light to moderate rain, but really the heavy stuff is all the way down to the actual leading edge of that line. So coming right into I-10 right now. And the east side of the city, I just want to talk about this really quick, and then I'll throw it over to Kim. The east side of the city is super quiet. In fact, look at this. There's sunshine out in Liberty. A couple clouds, a couple higher clouds you're probably seeing blowing off the top of these storms. The models had nailed this last night, and they struggled with it a little bit this morning. But last night when I showed you, at 10 o'clock, at 10 p.m., I said, I don't think the east side of the city is going to see a lot. You'll see a couple showers, but really it's the city and points west. So models did a great job handling it last night. They were a little wishy-washy this morning, but it looks like they're kind of back on what's going to be happening here as we go through the next few hours. But definitely a lot of steady rain coming in for us. I'm going to hand it over to Kim, the baton. Pass the baton to Kim.
There's my arm, and I'll meet you on the green screen. How about that?
But I just, it's going to be a kind of a wet, drippy, dreary day for us, Kim, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, you know what? But it is something. You and I, we see these signatures and we're like, okay, it's not severe.
Yeah.
It's not. But I will say, some people are responding to my story and they're like, hey, this came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, the plants were starting to whip around. So we kind of remember that for folks that, wake up and it's sunny, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoa, there is some wind, there is some rain, and there's lightning too.
Well, I told you this morning, I woke up at like 7 o'clock this morning, because last night was talking about, okay, we're going to have the storm complex come through, and the timing was a little iffy. Yeah. I looked at the window and I was like, gosh, it's beautiful outside. Went and sat on the balcony for a little bit, and then I looked at the radar and I was like, it's going to be a busy mid-morning for us. Yeah, definitely. And that's another thing. The Storm Prediction Center didn't have, any threat for severe weather getting down to Houston. And we're right on that edge.
We are.
It's so razor thin.
But that's the thing. Even if our atmosphere isn't primed and ready, even if it is the morning and we have a cap, our atmosphere is now unstable, when these storms bow out like that, and I
Yes.
saw it bow out,
Gusty winds.
they take a mind of their own.
Big time.
And they can really muscle through here, which is why even though all the models were showing it's going to fall apart, it's going to fall apart, it's going to fall apart, I said, I don't know that it is going to fall apart. In fact, I think we should issue a weather impact alert at least as a heads up. You know, what's the worst that can happen with that? Okay, the storms fall apart and we could carry about our day. But, you know, on the flip side, if these storms strengthen, I want you to know. I want you to be aware that there is something, you know, on our heels that could make its way down here. And lo and behold, we've got something. A special weather statement is a criteria just below a severe thunderstorm warning. So it's because we've got these gusts that are still at around 50 miles an hour in isolated areas that the National Weather Service is still watching this until it completely loses that potential. This isn't all along the line. It's just a couple of areas embedded within this line of storms. And you'll notice now it's really starting to lose its composure. I mean, when it has this really pronounced bow, the line, even like the depth of it is significant, it's thicker. That's when we know it's holding together. But once it starts to hollow out like this or become blotchy, that's when we know, okay, it's losing some of that steam. But hey, it's already here. So let's get a close-up view of the storm as it's tracking along the I-10 corridor. So I'll take you towards Katy, or the energy corridor. That's where, you know, I suspect a lot of you are waking up with us this morning. Hopefully you made it to work just fine. If you work your 9 to 5, you were thinking, what storms? You know, it was nice and sunny outside. Now it is cloudy. We are starting to see the heavy rain. And hey, look along FM 1489. So just south of Sealy, between Sealy and Katy, that bright purple spot right there. Yeah, that could be a little small hail signature. Notice the special weather statement isn't for any hail. However, when you see those bright spots, it's a little speck right there. So that is likely melting before reaching the ground. That's nothing. But hey, it's something to note with this line. It's got at least some significant rain, you know, brings you that heavy tropical downpour briefly. This isn't rain that's accumulating, which is good, but it is rain that makes it difficult to see. When you've got that big burst coming down on you as you're trying to maneuver Houston traffic, it's not something that you want to be caught in if you can avoid it, right? So if you had something penciled in this late morning, you might want to push it back a little bit, but all things considered, the timing of this, not bad. It wasn't for our morning commute. It's not during the lunchtime rush, and it's not for your commute back home either. It's out right in the late morning. Hopefully we're all inside, just letting these storms roll through. Actually kind of nice, right? Nice and soothing to watch the storms roll from the comfort of our own home. We'll keep an eye on it as the line makes its exit towards Galveston. And then like Pat was saying, we'll see some showers kind of lingering behind it, but that's pretty much it. Now, if something else starts to flourish behind this, say this afternoon, for example, we'll be back and be sure to give you a heads up like we did about this. All right, well, have a wonderful rest of your Monday and check back in with us at noon. Like I said, meteorologist Pat Calvin will be here talking about storms and talking about the tropics. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to the tropics. All right, we'll see you there.